The young and the restless spoilers in the dimly lit underbelly of Genoa, a city renowned for its glamorous facade hiding sinister secrets, a palpable tension was beginning to simmer. Rumors of a mysterious kidnapper had long circulated, yet no one could pinpoint who was behind the latest wave of terror. The novelist's pen had remained eerily silent on this matter, leaving readers with nothing but ambiguity and the unsettling notion that the enemy was an enigma. However, an unexpected prediction had taken hold of many hearts, and it wasn't long before a chilling theory emerged. The duo responsible for the chaos in Genoa was none other than Audra and Holden, whose dark intentions aimed to bring the city to its knees. Audra and Holden were no ordinary criminals. They were masterminds of manipulation and cruelty, united by a shared obsession with money and power. Their plan was as bold as it was sinister: kidnap two of Genoa's most influential figures, Phyllis and Sharon, and hold them for ransom amounting to millions of dollars. Every move they made was calculated, every gesture a testament to their unyielding desire for wealth. The monetary motive was crystal clear. For them, money was not just a means to an end but the very essence of their existence. As the city held its breath in terror, the questions mounted: how would Genoa ever recover from this wave of darkness? Why had Holden resorted to such inhumane actions, turning what could have been a calculated heist into a horrifying ordeal for those caught in their merciless web? The answers, as elusive as the kidnappers themselves, were buried under layers of deceit and mystery. Holden's transformation from a seemingly unremarkable figure into a cold-blooded villain had left many in shock. His actions, driven by a ruthless desire to consolidate power and wealth, underscored a profound disconnect from the moral fabric that once tethered him to humanity. The question on everyone's lips was not only how he could justify such heinous acts but also what drove him to embrace this life of darkness. His partnership with Audra only deepened the mystery. While Holden's methods were methodical and calculated, Audra's presence was marked by a wild, almost feral intensity that unsettled everyone who came into contact with her. Audra, often described as a monster cloaked in a veneer of charm, was a figure of duality. On the surface, she might have appeared to be an unassuming individual, but beneath that facade lay a capacity for betrayal and deception that knew no bounds. Her sinister charm was most evident in her interactions with Nate, a man whose heart was swayed by her calculated lies. Despite the warnings that lingered in the corridors of gossip, Nate found himself enchanted by Audra's enigmatic allure. Even after the painful realizations and revelations of her deceit, he forgave her, their relationship surviving on the delicate threads of passion and denial. Their love, as toxic as it was mesmerizing, served as a microcosm of the broader havoc that Audra and Holden intended to unleash upon Genoa. In an unexpected twist of fate, Phyllis found herself ensnared in this elaborate trap. Never in her wildest dreams did she anticipate that the hand that would seize her would be that of Audra. The betrayal stung deeply, compounded by the fact that the kidnappers were masked figures, literally. Clad in enigmatic disguises that they refused to remove, Audra and Holden rendered it impossible for Phyllis and Sharon to determine their true identities. Every confrontation, every cryptic message, heightened the uncertainty and dread that permeated the atmosphere. The masks served as symbols of their unyielding determination to remain untraceable, and with each passing moment, the stakes grew ever higher. Genoa, a city already renowned for its shadowy intrigues, now found itself at the brink of a full-blown crisis. The public's anxiety was palpable. The kidnappings, far from being isolated incidents, seemed to signal the onset of a calculated campaign designed to destabilize not just the individuals involved, but the entire city's structure. The city's power brokers and law enforcement agencies were left scrambling for clues, each revelation only adding to the labyrinth of mystery that enshrouded Audra and Holden's true motives. The duality of Audra's character was at the heart of the drama. Her actions were driven by a potent mix of greed and personal vendetta. To her, money was the ultimate arbiter of power, a tool to reshape the world in her twisted image. Yet, behind her relentless pursuit of wealth was a history shrouded in pain and betrayal, a past that had forged her into the merciless figure she had become. Every lie she told, every secret she guarded, was a testament to the scars that life had etched onto her soul. And it was this very complexity that made her both fascinating and terrifying. Meanwhile, Holden's evolution into a character defined by moral ambiguity continued to be a source of intense debate. His seemingly contradictory nature, balancing cold calculation with moments of unexpected vulnerability, rendered him an enigma even to those closest to him. His decision to partner with Audra was not simply a matter of convenience, it was a reflection of a deeper, more insidious desire to reshape his destiny at any cost. His actions, whether motivated by ambition or a desire for retribution, left the citizens of Genoa questioning the very nature of good and evil. As the city reeled from the impact of these kidnappings, the narrative took on an almost cinematic quality. Every twist and turn, every shadow cast by the mysterious duo, added layers of intrigue that kept the citizens and viewers on edge. The interplay of deception and trust, love and betrayal, power and vulnerability, created a tapestry of storytelling that was as complex as it was compelling. And in the midst of this chaos, the fates of Phyllis and Sharon hung precariously in the balance, their destinies intertwined with the broader machinations of Audra and Holden's malevolent design. With the city's elite scrambling to decipher clues and form alliances, an urgent question remained: what would be the ultimate cost of this criminal enterprise? The ransom demand, soaring into the millions, was not just a financial figure but a symbol of the vast gulf between the values of the powerful and the desperate plight of those left to suffer the consequences of their greed. The kidnappings, orchestrated with surgical precision by Audra and Holden, were a stark reminder that in Genoa, power was the most dangerous weapon of all. As night fell over the city, casting long, foreboding shadows across its ancient streets, the mystery deepened. Every whispered conversation, every furtive glance, carried with it the weight of impending doom. Audra and Holden remained at large, their identities masked and their intentions cloaked in layers of deceit. And while the public struggled to come to terms with the magnitude of their actions, the true horror lay in the realization that the very fabric of trust within Genoa was being irreparably torn apart. In the end, this tale of kidnapping, betrayal, and ruthless ambition was more than just a crime story, it was a mirror reflecting the darkest corners of human nature. It questioned the lengths to which one might go in the pursuit of power and wealth, and it laid bare the vulnerabilities that exist even in the most fortified of cities. As the city of Genoa awaited the next move from its enigmatic adversaries, one thing was certain: the era of shadows had only just begun, and the story of Audra and Holden was far from over. In the heart of Genoa, the air was thick with unease and whispers of impending doom. The city, a mosaic of dazzling wealth and shadowed intrigue, had been shaken to its core by a series of events that none could have foreseen. Sharon, once the epitome of resilience and grace, now found herself adrift in a state of utter chaos. Confusion and despair were her constant companions as she grappled with a reality that no longer made sense. "Why am I like this?" she would murmur to herself in moments of raw vulnerability, her voice trembling with both fear and disbelief. The transformation was horrifying, not only to those who watched her unravel but to Sharon herself, who had always prided herself on her inner strength. In her disoriented state, Sharon's thoughts grew increasingly tangled, leading her to a gut-wrenching conclusion. She believed that Phyllis, a woman once regarded as both a friend and confidant, was somehow responsible for her present torment. This accusation, born out of a deep-seated sense of betrayal and confusion, took root in her mind even as the reality of their situation became more complex. Unbeknownst to Sharon, however, both she and Phyllis were pawns in a larger, more sinister game, a game orchestrated by unseen forces with motives as murky as the depths of the night. Across the labyrinthine streets of Genoa, two determined souls were on a mission to piece together the fragments of this dark mystery. Nick and Mariah, partners in both duty and life, threw themselves into the investigation with a fervor that bordered on obsession. They were convinced that the key to unraveling the crisis and rescuing Sharon from the grip of her unraveling mind lay in pinpointing the true enemy behind the chaos. With every lead they followed, every shadow they pursued, Nick and Mariah were haunted by the suspicion that Phyllis was the mastermind behind these terrible events. Their minds, clouded by grief and fear, had latched onto this possibility, convinced that a betrayal of such magnitude must have come from within their own ranks. Yet, amid the whirlwind of accusations and desperation, Nick had taken a moment to clear his own mind and heart. In a rare moment of clarity, he realized that his initial suspicions about Phyllis might be nothing more than a tragic misunderstanding. He had seen the pain in her eyes, the genuine fear and vulnerability that betrayed no hint of malice. Deep down, Nick knew that Phyllis was as much a victim as Sharon, a realization that both pained and perplexed him. This inner conflict tore at him as he wrestled with the conflicting evidence and his own emotions. Could it be that, in the midst of all this chaos, they had all been ensnared by forces far beyond their control? Meanwhile, the entire city of Genoa was reeling from the unprecedented disappearance of two of its most influential citizens. The shocking vanishing act had left both the police and the public in a state of disarray. With no clear suspect to pin the blame on, the investigation hit a wall at every turn. Rumors abounded, theories clashed, and every dark corner of the city seemed to whisper secrets of hidden agendas and long-forgotten grudges. The uncertainty was palpable, and every unanswered question only served to deepen the mystery. In the police headquarters, the atmosphere was one of relentless pressure. Investigators pored over case files and surveillance footage, desperate to unearth a clue that could lead them to the truth. Yet, despite their best efforts, the trail remained cold. The kidnappers had left behind little more than fragmented evidence, a few obscure symbols, a series of cryptic messages, and the pervasive aura of calculated menace. The absence of concrete leads only added to the mounting frustration among those tasked with restoring order. Every passing hour saw Genoa sink further into turmoil, the city's pulse quickening with the fear of the unknown. Nick and Mariah's personal quest to find the perpetrators and rescue Sharon became emblematic of the broader struggle for truth and justice in Genoa. Their journey was fraught with challenges, from deceptive informants to dead-end leads, and every setback drove them to dig deeper into the dark underbelly of their beloved city. Their shared determination to right the wrongs inflicted upon their community lent their investigation a sense of urgency, a beacon of hope amid the pervasive darkness. Yet, the lingering suspicion about Phyllis haunted their every move, a reminder that sometimes the truth is buried beneath layers of human frailty and misjudgment. As night descended over Genoa, the city's skyline was transformed into a canvas of flickering streetlights and deep, enveloping shadows. In these long, silent hours, every citizen could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. The disappearance of Sharon and the presumed involvement of Phyllis had created an atmosphere of distrust and dismay. People locked their doors a little tighter, and every knock on the door at night was met with a nervous glance, as if it could be the harbinger of further misfortune. In a small, cramped apartment that served as both a hideout and a makeshift command center for Nick and Mariah, the couple reviewed the latest intelligence with grim determination. Maps of Genoa were strewn across the table, interlaced with red and blue pins marking potential hotspots and suspicious activities. They pored over the scant clues left behind by the kidnappers, each fragment a piece of a larger puzzle that threatened to overwhelm them. Amid the sea of evidence, the question loomed large: who was orchestrating this chaos, and why had they chosen Sharon, and by extension, Phyllis, as their targets? As the investigation continued, the lines between friend and foe blurred. Misunderstandings and misinterpretations led to further accusations, fueling a cycle of suspicion that spread like wildfire through the ranks of those seeking justice. Nick's internal struggle over his misplaced suspicions of Phyllis became a symbol of the broader dilemma facing everyone in Genoa. In a time of crisis, even the most cherished relationships could be overshadowed by doubt and fear. In the midst of these turbulent events, the fate of Sharon hung precariously in the balance. Her mental state, already fragile from the shock of her abduction, continued to deteriorate under the relentless pressure of her circumstances. Each moment that passed only deepened her sense of isolation and despair, while the relentless efforts of Nick and Mariah to save her from both physical and emotional captivity underscored the high stakes of the unfolding drama. Their determination to unearth the truth and reclaim the innocence lost in the chaos was a beacon of hope that resonated not just with Sharon, but with every citizen of Genoa longing for a return to normalcy. The mystery of who was truly behind these dark machinations remained unresolved. With each twist and turn in the investigation, Genoa found itself grappling with questions that went far beyond the simple act of kidnapping. It was a struggle to define trust in an era where appearances could be deceiving, where the line between victim and perpetrator was as thin as a whisper in the wind. The unresolved mystery cast a long shadow over the city, challenging its inhabitants to confront the unsettling possibility that sometimes the greatest threats come not from a single enemy, but from the fractures within their own community. As dawn began to break over the troubled city, the first light revealed a Genoa that was battered yet unbowed. The streets, though scarred by the night's horrors, held the promise of a new beginning. The investigation was far from over, and Nick and Mariah knew that every step forward was a battle against the tide of uncertainty. In the quiet moments before the city awoke, they made a silent vow to uncover the truth, to mend the frayed bonds of trust, and to restore hope in a community on the brink of collapse. In the end, the saga of Sharon's descent into chaos and the desperate search for answers became a poignant reminder of the fragile nature of trust and the unyielding resilience of the human spirit. As Genoa braced itself for the next chapter in this dark narrative, one thing was clear: the path to redemption lay not in pointing fingers or assigning blame, but in the relentless pursuit of truth and the courage to confront the demons that lurked within. This narrative not only chronicles the turmoil and desperation gripping Sharon's life and Genoa at large, but also reflects the deep emotional and psychological toll of living in a city where the enemy is elusive and trust is in short supply. Through Nick and Mariah's unwavering determination and the heartbreaking journey of two unsuspecting victims, the story paints a vivid picture of a community struggling to reclaim its soul amidst the chaos of betrayal and mystery. In the labyrinth of Genoa's underworld, a city where alliances are as fleeting as the shadows that stretch across its neon-lit streets, the aftermath of the high-stakes kidnapping plot had become a turning point for some, and a new beginning for others. For Holden, this calculated act of abduction had served its dark purpose. It was, in essence, his meticulously crafted exit strategy from Genoa. With the successful execution of his role in the chaos, Holden had finally reached the end of his mission in the city. He had always been a man who valued precision over emotion, and now, as the city reels from the fallout of his actions, he is ready to vanish into the darkness, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty and unanswered questions. Holden's departure was not merely about physical escape. It was a statement, a final act of defiance that allowed him to close a chapter marked by treachery and blood money. As law enforcement and rival factions scoured the streets for any hint of his whereabouts, Holden's exit was already set in motion. His departure was a silent exodus, a well-timed disappearance into the intricate network of safe houses and secret passageways he had so carefully curated over the years. In his mind, Genoa had become a chessboard on which he had played his final move. With the city's authorities distracted by the kidnapping crisis and the ensuing chaos, Holden's escape was as inevitable as the coming dawn, a vanishing act that left his true motives and next destination shrouded in mystery. While Holden's exit strategy promised him a life unburdened by the dangerous entanglements of Genoa, his partner in crime, Audra, faced an altogether different conundrum. Known for her razor-sharp intellect and unfaltering ability to stay several steps ahead of both friends and foes, Audra was the embodiment of calculated survival. If the unraveling of their plot threatened to expose her as a conspirator, she was not one to simply crumble under the weight of public scrutiny. Instead, Audra had long mastered the art of vanishing in plain sight. She was no fool, she would never allow herself to be pinned down by a mistake or a miscalculation. Audra's survival was rooted in her meticulous planning and her unwavering belief in doing what she deemed right, even if that path was paved with moral ambiguity. In the dangerous game of deception and betrayal, she had learned to blend into the background, becoming an untraceable ghost in a city rife with secrets. Should her involvement in the kidnapping ever come under investigation, Audra's plan was clear: retreat into the labyrinth of her own hidden network, quietly continue her endeavors, and let the chaos work in her favor. With every whispered rumor and every fleeting glance of suspicion, she moved further into the shadows, her enigmatic presence becoming almost mythic among the corridors of Genoa's elite. The stakes of their criminal enterprise were as high as the ambitions that fueled it. The plan had hinged on a substantial ransom, orchestrated by none other than Nick and Daniel, whose combined efforts aimed at rescuing the kidnapped victims had also been an unintentional catalyst in this high-stakes drama. For Holden and Audra, the success of their operation was measured not only by the speed of their escape but by the weight of the cash that would soon be exchanged, a sum reaching into the millions. If the ransom were to be collected without a hitch, it would cement their status among Genoa's most formidable, and grant them the financial freedom to retire comfortably from their life of crime. In that scenario, Holden's departure would be celebrated as the grand finale of a meticulously executed plan, while Audra would disappear into the folds of anonymity, her wealth ensuring her continued influence from the shadows. Yet, as is often the case in the murky realms of criminal underworlds, plans rarely unfold without complications. The unpredictable nature of human ambition and the relentless pursuit of justice meant that every move was subject to scrutiny. For Audra, this potential exposure was not a cause for panic, but rather an opportunity to demonstrate her cunning. Should the authorities or rival factions come too close to unmasking her involvement, she was prepared to vanish once more, leaving behind only a trail of cryptic clues and the lingering question: what is the true nature of justice in a city where the lines between right and wrong blur into obscurity? Audra's calculated coolness was rooted in her belief that she was always a step ahead, a master of the art of deception. Her approach was pragmatic. If fortune favored her and the ransom money flowed in as planned, she would use that wealth to secure her future, insulating herself from any retribution. With her resources, she could forge new identities, bribe officials, and disappear into a world where her past was nothing more than a ghost story told in hushed tones. On the other hand, if the ransom failed to materialize, Audra had no intention of abandoning her position in Genoa. Instead, she would continue to work quietly, reshaping her influence behind the scenes. In her mind, failure was not an option, it was merely another twist in an ever-evolving narrative, one that would only serve to make her legend all the more enduring. Nick and Daniel, whose pursuit of justice had inadvertently set the stage for this high-stakes game, found themselves in a precarious position. Their mission to rescue the kidnapped victims had taken a complicated turn, intertwining with the destinies of Holden and Audra in ways that none of them had anticipated. As the investigation into the disappearances deepened, Genoa's police force found themselves grappling with a tangled web of misdirection, half-truths, and the unrelenting ingenuity of a criminal duo that was anything but ordinary. The case, which began as a straightforward rescue operation, had morphed into an intricate dance of cat and mouse, a contest of wits where every clue led to more questions than answers. The city, already reeling from the shock of the kidnappings, now buzzed with speculation and fear. Citizens whispered about the enigmatic figures who had manipulated events from behind the scenes, and every rumor added fuel to the growing inferno of paranoia. The once celebrated streets of Genoa now felt like a minefield of hidden dangers, where even the most mundane encounter could reveal a deeper conspiracy. For those on the front lines of the investigation, each day brought new challenges, as the realization set in that the masterminds behind the plot were not only extraordinarily clever but also dangerously elusive. In this volatile environment, Holden's exit represented a momentary reprieve, a final, decisive act that allowed him to sever his ties with a city that had both empowered and betrayed him. His departure was symbolic, a calculated withdrawal from a battleground where the rules had been rewritten by ambition and desperation. Meanwhile, Audra's future remained an enigma. With a mind as agile as the shifting tides of Genoa's fortunes, she was poised to either claim a vast fortune or continue her silent vigil, a ghost who watched over the city with an inscrutable gaze. As the city awaited the next move in this intricate chess game, the stakes grew ever higher. The eventual flow of ransom money promised to redefine the balance of power, offering either a lavish reward or a stark reminder of the risks inherent in defying the natural order of chaos. For Holden, the exit was his final triumph. A calculated farewell that allowed him to escape the clutches of a city that had become both a playground and a prison. For Audra, the future was a canvas yet to be painted, a series of choices that would determine whether she would rise to wealth and infamy or continue to lurk in the shadows, forever the silent architect of her own destiny. In the end, the kidnapping plot was not just a criminal enterprise, it was a catalyst for transformation. It underscored the transient nature of power and the relentless pursuit of self-interest, revealing the true character of those who dare to navigate the murky waters of Genoa's underworld. Holden's calculated exit and Audra's enduring presence served as a reminder that, in the world of high stakes and hidden agendas, survival depended not on brute force or overt displays of power, but on the ability to adapt, disappear, and reinvent oneself when the moment was right. And so, as the night surrendered to the first light of dawn, the citizens of Genoa were left to wonder, was this the end of one era, or merely the opening move in a game that would redefine their city's future? Only time would tell whether the ransom money would pave the way to unimaginable riches for those daring enough to seize it, or whether Audra would continue her quiet dominion from the shadows, ever watchful, ever cunning, and forever untraceable. This narrative weaves together the critical turning points in the aftermath of the kidnapping plot, highlighting Holden's strategic exit and Audra's masterful, calculated survival. Their fates, interlaced with the fortunes of Genoa, set the stage for a future where power is transient, and those who adapt to the shifting tides emerge as the true architects of destiny.